Unlock the high returns of the expanding venture capital world right here on the Emerging Managers Podcast.
Welcome back. Scott Kelly, founder and CEO of Black Dog Venture Partners and your host for the Emerging Managers Podcast. You know, one thing I've learned over the course of doing these podcasts over the last several months is that, the venture capital journey has a lot of different paths. And, our interview today was with Paul Anthony Claxton of Digerati Investments. And, he started out as a Marine, 10 years of service and 4 tours in Iraq. And he shared his transition, as you'll learn in this interview, from military intelligence to tech roles to venture capital. Now, his firm, Digerati, focuses on early-stage AI-native companies that drive significant impact by changing how we live, work, and do business. And Claxton emphasizes the importance of an operator mindset in assessing founders, prioritizing execution and customer acquisition over product ideas alone. And he also highlighted the firm's unique approach to due diligence, using his proprietary, as you call it, scale curves, which focuses on the company's current state rather than just future projections. So we're going to get some great insights from a non-traditional path to venture capital from Paul Anthony Claxton. Give it a listen. I'll be back with some feedback. Hello, everybody. Scott Kelly, founder and CEO of Black Dog Venture Partners and your host for the Emerging Managers Podcast. And I'm glad to have Paul Anthony Claxton of Digerati Investments. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, Scott. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. So Paul, before we get to the fund, why don't you share a bit about your professional background prior to launching the fund?
Absolutely. So I was a U.S. Marine for 10 years, 4 tours in Iraq, starting with the invasion of Iraq. Traditional, infantryman, gunslugger, whatever you want to call it. Towards the end of my career, I fulfilled some collateral duties where I actually ran the command intelligence center. So think like NASA war room type look, right? TVs, computers all over the place. So ran that over roughly 120,000 miles square mile area of operations with 5,200 personnel reporting to me and 5 lieutenant colonels, and I reported to a couple of generals and the Pentagon. So did that for a while. Left the Marine Corps in 2010 and got my continued my plight in tech, so to speak. Really, the start of my tech was in that command center war room, where we were beginning to deploy, battlefield what I would call cutting edge battlefield technologies like drones, IED, robotics, et cetera. So continued that, did project management, marketing, led some IT divisions for a larger Fortune 500 companies. So got to dabble in quite a few things in about 6.5 short years in corporate. 2016, I said, let's go a different direction here. See how I do as an entrepreneur. So been bootstrapping companies for about 10 years now, products, et cetera. We're working primarily and solely in my area of expertise, which is AI, robotics, operations, and just scaling early stage initiatives. I was actually referred into a VC firm several years ago and got into supporting them and got into the investment space and have cut my teeth in this space. I've got, war stories on the prevailing side and also on the attrition side as well. But so I've cut my teeth in the space, and today I have Digerati Investments, which is an early stage VC firm focusing on, impact investing, AI native companies, right? That are building products. The way I surmise impact is, does it change the way that we do business, live and work, right? Like, so if it does that, then, we probably have something to talk about. So again, seed and Series A, that's our focus. Outside of venture capital, I'm a thought leader, emerging thought leader within my space. I have my own AI podcasts. I lead some chapter initiatives for AI Collective organization in San Diego, and I do a lot more within the field of AI. So I'll pause there. That's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. And again, thank you for your service. Yeah, as you mentioned, you have you understand the battles of war figuratively and literally. So I appreciate that. So let's expand a little bit more on the fund. So talk about where where you see AI and robotics impacting your decisions, on how you pick founders, how you pick companies, and how you invest.
Ultimately, I look at, how does AI impact my decisions? So, number one, due diligence. I think as a VC, if you're not incorporating AI into some aspect, hopefully every aspect of your due diligence, I think you're shortchanging yourself, and I think you're shortchanging your LPs and your founders. So if you're not doing that, then you're not differentiating yourself. The way that I would do that is, every VC firm is unique, right? So I would incorporate some kind of proprietary process, into your thesis in terms of how you conduct due diligence and how you invest. And we've certainly done that. I've got my own product. I call it Scale Curves. It's a due diligence engine, for us to see, what the companies are doing well, what they're not doing so well, what are the blind spots. And this is an industry that is largely built off of future state projections. And while I think that's important to know where we could go and what we could be, I think what is more important is what are we now, and what are we actually now, and where are we actually at right now. And the only way that we can know that is by focusing on what we're doing well and what we're not doing so well, and eliminating as many blind spots as possible.
How does your military background and experience play into how you assess founders that you're going to invest in?
Military experience, great question. So I bring an operator mindset, and what that means is execute. Nothing. I think Mark Cuban says, tongue in cheek, I don't know, this isn't word for word, but essentially he says, if you don't have sales, you don't have anything. At the end of the day, sales is king. You got to have the numbers to back up what you're talking about here. So, at the end of the day, are we executing towards goal? It can be great if we're building a product here, that, it can be a great product, but if we're not getting it in front of customers and the right people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. So we need to get that product in front of people, right? For it to even matter. So that's number one. Also, people. What is the character of the people? Business is war, and VC is the front lines of the battlefield, in my opinion. And I want to know who I'm working with. So with that being said, we have a saying in the Marine Corps called, we train how we fight, right? And so, I have to have every bit of confidence that the people I'm working with are going to have my back, when stuff gets kind of shaky, right? When things aren't going well, and this happens a lot, so when things don't go as planned, do we shake and crumble, or do we band together? So I need to have confidence, and I need to have confidence that, people are going to follow through, and they've got loyalty to the cause, So, I think those ethos are very much Marine Corps inspired, and they translate well into VC.
Fantastic. So in your background in the VC space, any success stories you want to share? Any companies that you've invested in that you're excited about currently, or potential trends or things you're looking at right now as potential investments?
Yeah, I would say right now, in terms of trends and types of companies that I look at, what I'm really excited about is quite frankly what I feel the majority of people don't get excited about, right? Like, it's not what social media advertises. It's not what you hear in the tabloids. What you hear a lot about in the tabloids is the user-centric AI products and services. That doesn't really excite me too much. I'm more excited about, the picks and shovels, the things that are behind the scenes that make AI even possible. Like, that fascinates me, So, like, when you're putting a prompt in the chat GPT, do you know how much ingenuity and engineering and resources have to go in for you to just even to be able to do that one prompt? I want to see the technologies and the products that are making that more efficient and sustainable. You know what I mean? Like, so things that are reducing the AI power drag on our environment, right? The AI pollution epidemic, the labor epidemic where, we've got sweatshops basically out in mining facilities across the world that are, making AI possible. But they're also suffering, the repercussions, the negative side effects. This doesn't get talked about. It's the ugly face of AI. I want to do things. I want to work with companies that are making that better because I really care. And AI is not going anywhere. AI is not going anywhere. It's kind of like the origination of the automobile when we had Teslas, right? They put out an exuberant amount of pollution into there. They were inefficient. They broke down all the time. But now look at how far we've come from the Model T4. And now we have Tesla. So like we've evolved a long way. I want to bring the evolutions to the industry because just like vehicles didn't go anywhere, and they never said we never moved from the horse and buggy, but we did, and so AI is not going anywhere. So it's important to me that, as a leader in this space, that I'm not just in this space to make, to invest and make money and grow companies and make money for our LPs, but I'm in this to do that. But I'm also in it to do it the right way, in a way that sustainably evolves AI.
But you mentioned your LPs. Let's talk about what's the makeup of your LPs? Not necessarily by names, but who are they investing in your fund currently, and who are you investing alongside with?
High net worth individuals, family offices, and banks.
Okay.
That's primarily where our focus has been. And there's a strategy behind that because we look for the solidarity. I would say the institutional capital banks can provide, but we also look for the patient capital in the vision that a high net worth, super high net worth, or family investor can provide as well. That vision that says like, look, this is a legacy for our family. This is a legacy for our name. We want to put our name behind something that truly matters. We want to be a part of that. So that's kind of the types of capital that I like to go after.
Okay,
and
great.
I like to work with. Yes.
So for potential investors, LPs, and others listening in, why your fund? Why now?
So why our fund? Why now? That's a great question. I don't think there's any right answer to that. The right answer may be the wrong answer for someone versus someone else. So, but in terms of me, why our fund? Well, it starts with me. I'm the founder. I'm the GP. Where I've come from, I come from, an unorthodox environment. So, I don't bring your average story to the table. Why am I here? You know what I mean? So if you were to ask me, like, why am I here? And we talk about some of the things that I've been through. I mentioned before, I've got war stories, but the VC is not built, VC is not built to be friendly. You know what I mean? So, all the successful VCs and the billionaires out there, they didn't get to be billionaires and successful VCs because people were nice to them. So what I'm saying is, money is not friendly. You know what I mean? And so VC is an industry that is built to break even like the most resilient minds, and I've pushed through that. So, when you talk about like, why me, why here, or why me, why now, or whatever, it's because, I have been through both, the corporate war room, but also, I'm a Marine, so I bring a different mindset to the table. I am not a person that went to Harvard, even though I went to Harvard, but I didn't go to Harvard and then get, some Morgan Stanley job. I have a very unusual trajectory in the VC. So I really bring a different approach to it. I focus on creative finance within the regulatory confines of the industry and what we can do to improve some things in VC. A lot of people think VC is broken. I don't believe that. I just believe it's shifting right now, right? Like, so for example, I know a Digerati, for example, like, and we've had conversations about the safe note. Can we do something better than the safe note? Can we bring something into the market? And so I'm working on, like, things to do that, right? Like, I've got a instrument I created called the reloadable note, which I'm working on a lawyer with right now to fine tune, but hopefully we can get some people using my reloadable note, and maybe it becomes a standard. Maybe it doesn't. But these are things that I do, and these are some things differently that, you might not see a lot of VCs doing.
Awesome. Yeah. Any final thoughts or things you want to share with our listeners?
The main thing is that, I think when it comes to the current state of the VC industry, don't be oblivious, but, remain cognizant to, the environment of yesterday, today, and what the future potentially holds. Understand that, VC, is an aspect of the finance industry, but this industry is more about relationships than it is finance. And just understand that, be careful about listening to, rhetoric of the VC industry. I hear a lot. It's broken. No, I think the industry is just at a major shift right now. And, it's going through some kind of, a stage in its life where it's shifting kind of from that middle-aged person to that senior person. Right. And so, I think it's important to realize that and realize what it means from an LP perspective as well. And how the industry has performed over the last several years, and why that performance is causing some mindset shifting, right? And so getting into the mind of an LP, and why do they need a VC, right? So you see more LPs maybe doing direct deals, et cetera. Now, as a VC, as a general partner, how do you navigate that? How do you respond to that, right? That's the important, right? And so not sticking with necessarily the old because that's how it's been done before, but realizing that, okay, this is how it's been done before. The industry is struggling. Let me see how I can maybe do something different that's timely and relevant. And so I think that's important to keep in mind.
Fantastic. So where can listeners today learn more about Digerati Investments and get in contact with you?
Best way to get in contact with me is Paul Anthony Claxton, LinkedIn. I think I'm the only VC with that name. Last name is CLAX as in X-ray, TON as in November. And then my personal CV site, which is paulclaxton.io.
Fantastic. Well, everyone listening in, I encourage you to like, comment, and share my interview with Paul today. And Paul, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. It was really interesting to see where Paul from Digerati, he uses the things that he learned in the military to apply to how he invests and the founders that he invests with. And, some great takeaways. Digerati seeks, visionary capital, high net worth individuals, family offices, and banks as LPs who value long-term vision and legacy over quick returns. He's got a user-centric approach with AI. The firm is more excited about the picks and shovels of the technology that make AI more efficient, sustainable, and addressable, with environmental and labor changes. And there's an evolving landscape, which we've talked about before, and Paul is in agreement with that. There's shifting ways to innovate and reloadable opportunities to build, a financial model that hasn't been around in the past. But the thing I really enjoyed about the interview is how he approaches the founders he invests with. He's a big believer in execute. He stresses the importance of demonstrating sales and getting products in front of customers. A great product idea is not enough without effective execution, something I could not agree with more. And, obviously, as a Marine and as a member of the military, character and loyalty matter. He wants founders that show strong character, resilience, loyalty, especially when facing challenges. As the VC space is likened to a battlefield, and I could not agree more. It takes a certain type of person to become a founder, and it takes a certain type of person to invest in those founders. And at the end of the day, the same thing I've mentioned many, many times in my conversations, and same applies here with Paul, relationships are key. Our finance is a big part of VC. Building strong relationships and understanding the mindset of investors is crucial. So we had some great takeaways from a non-traditional path to venture capital with Paul from Digerati. And we've got some more great entrepreneurial type investors and financial type investors, specific investors from the U.S., from Europe, in different industries, in different stages. We've got a lot more coming on the Emerging Managers podcast. So I encourage you to like this podcast, comment, share with fellow investors and fellow entrepreneurs, and we'll see you soon on the Emerging Managers podcast.
Join Scott Kelly, Tracy Hazard, and their high-performing capital fund manager guests next week on the Emerging Managers podcast. Don't miss our upcoming virtual and live VC Fast Pitch and podcast events. For more details, background on our guests, or an application to be our next guest, visit emergingmanagerspodcast.com. Don't miss out on shaping the future of venture capital and entrepreneurship with us by joining our robust community of innovators and investors today.